back Friday, where today we're joined by the director from the Directorate of Climate Change, Winstone, who will be speaking to us a bit about what climate change is. Saizi tuko kwa msimu wa mvua, weather patterns have been changing. We talk a lot about climate change in national, local, and global conversations, and we've seen that these are some of the things that are being raised across the world. And in Vihiga County, our governor is part of the chair of the Climate Change Committee at the Council of Governors, and climate change has been a key conversation in this particular county, and also across national conversations where we've seen the governor, the director of climate change, and different representatives from the Department of Environment being able to address some of these issues. So today we're joined by Director Winstone Atamba, who is the director of the Directorate of Climate Change, and he'll be telling us a lot about the issues in climate to our audiences. So we continue encouraging you, please share your questions in the comment section. We will be addressing them. Na leo tuna deal na mambo ya climate change. So karibu on set, director.
At the county government of Vihiga. Therefore, my work revolves around coordinating the planning, the design, implementation of climate change programs, activities, and projects with an objective to address issues of climate change vulnerability among communities. That is basically matters of climate change adaptation, like climate smart agriculture projects, matters of water projects that are geared towards climate resilience, and also matters of climate change mitigation, such as reforestation activities. So those are part of my activities, and also my work revolves around mobilizing the requisite resources to be able to implement climate change programs in the county.
Okay, and one may ask, because climate change, we often think about it as a big word. It's over the last couple of years, it has become more important. But why has it been for Vihiga? Mbona Vihiga, like we're talking about climate change as well, because we tend to assume that some regions are not affected by some of this global specific directorate on climate change, and to also raise some of the issues you've mentioned. County.
Well, it's of particular importance to talk about climate change in Vihiga because for quite a long time, climate change has been misconceived to mean things like drought or prolonged dry seasons alone, which has not been a big problem in Vihiga per se. But then, if understand in the bigger perspective, climate change refers to changes in typical weather patterns of a place observed over a period of time, say 30 years. And when you come here in Vihiga, you will see the impacts of climate change are very imminent here. For example, shifts in rainfall patterns. You find that typically our rainfall patterns used to start at around mid of March. But you find in the last 10 years or so, out of 10 years, 9 years, rainfall has actually delayed to come. And this year of 2026 has actually presented another different perspective to it because rainfall has come much earlier than anticipated. In February, we started receiving the long rains. So those are some of the effects of climate change that makes it difficult for farmers to plan effectively and therefore affects agricultural productivity. We are now reaching temperatures of 11 degrees Celsius, 12 degrees Celsius here in has never been witnessed before. And these kind of temperatures means that new look at even during the dry season, for means that communities are unable to get water for their day-to-day activities. The reason why it is important for us to bring the global conversation of seeing the impacts of climate change to our people here. And that's why we as that is under the Paris Agreement. The national goal as espoused in the nationally determined contributions and the climate climate change policy for Vihiga for 2019, the Climate Change Act of 2025, which we revised the other year, that now establishes climate change financing, that is climate change fund, into which 2% of the county budget is apportioned for climate action, and also the regulations guides us in governing of climate change by establishing various committees both at county and ward level. Maybe, yes, you had something to ask?
Yes, you've mentioned the climate change fund
Yeah.
and also various committees, and I change steering committee, the county climate change planning committee, and there are also ward climate change planning committees, among others.
Yeah.
How do residents get to join these committees? What's their role in these particular committees, and what has been issues raised from the community and then has been action at the county level, and then there's been able to be progress?
They work as one climate change governance framework. So one committee feeds the other, and this is how the system works. That liaises with the citizens to identify climate change challenges and propose solutions by way of projects, mainly through community consultation forums. Once the ward committee does that work, they come here at the county level where they write proposals. So the Directorate of Climate Change offers technical support to all the ward climate change planning committees to develop proposals for projects. Once the projects are developed, then they are forwarded to the next level of committee called the Climate Change Planning Committee. So this is now the technical committee, mainly comprised of directors, which now does the what? It does the development of climate change work plans, and also it reviews project proposals from the ward committees. Once it reviews and they are technically sound, it therefore recommends these projects for approval by the Climate Change Steering Committee, which is the apex committee chaired by the governor of the county, mainly comprising of the CCM from climate change line ministries such as climate change and water CCM, gender CCM, agriculture CCM, health CCM, finance CCM, and even academia from the Kaimosi University. He's a member of that committee for the time being, and so forth. So this is now the apex committee that approved the strategic plans for the Directorate of Climate Change, approve the projects for from the ward committees, and also gives strategic direction in terms of policy direction as far as matters of climate change are concerned. Yeah.
And for the residents, is anyone, because the ward climate change planning committee is the one that's closest to the residents.
Yes.
Is anyone allowed to join the meetings, or how does that work? How do I know, like for instance, my ward, how do I know the climate change committee when it sits? If I want to participate in it, who do I need to talk to? Or who do I need to liaise with to kind of understand what happens at the ward level for climate change projects in my area?
So the residents take part in ward climate change planning committee activities through the community consultation forum. So if we want to identify projects in a ward, the ward committee mobilizes various stakeholders across the whole ward equitably so that they can propose projects. Now, once they propose projects, this committee now is given technical support to write proposals. That is as far as project identification is concerned. During the monitoring of projects, the ward committees also undertake routine monitoring of projects implementation. They also oversight all project management committees for climate change resilience projects in the ward. So that is the work of ward committees. But then a ward committee is a committee, so residents do not necessarily participate in all the meetings of the ward committee. Because a ward committee is a defined climate change structure under the Climate Change Act, which provides a representative of women, a representative of, the Directorate of Climate Change, representative of the elderly there, PWD, a member of that committee. So you see, it's already a defined committee, but then it works in consultation with the community members there. Yeah.
Then it would be right to say that now it is the role of the persons within the committees to engage to be able to come up the issues. So they have that, from what you've explained, there's that link between the committee ensuring that all the issues are raised up to the county level, and also that the residents feel that their issues are brought to book. So the committee
Exactly.
sits between that.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
now the residents cannot just join it, but the persons within the committees, it's also their role to ensure that these issues that people want to raise, they're able to address them.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That's how it works. So, for direct involvement is during the community consultation forums, where forums mobilize many residents in one place, and then they articulate their issues. But as a matter of routine, it is ward committees that now represent the community, because every time you want to make a decision regarding a ward, it will be cumbersome for you to meet the whole community. Therefore, that underscores the reason why there's a small group of people called a Ward Climate Change Planning Committee that has been identified and capacity built to be able to adequately represent the community.
Yes.
And this ward committee in itself, the membership is also drawn across the ward. We do deliberate effort to ensure that all the sections of the ward are represented on this committee. Therefore, it is the real, for lack of another phrase, the bottom-up way of implementing climate action, so that the identification of climate action is from the bottom, the lowest level of the ward, up to the highest committee, which is at the desk of the governor, the steering committee. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. And you'd also mentioned we have a climate change fund.
Yes.
How do residents get access to this fund, and what has been, what are some of the projects you've been able to fund through this?
The residents get to tap into this climate change fund through the pathway of climate change project implementation. And as we have observed, the pathway of climate change project implementation is by identification of the projects in the ward through community consultation forum. As we consult the community, then they suggest, for example, here, we want to conserve this stream and harvest water from it, put in a tank and distribute to communities. They will agree as a community on that. Then the ward committee will write a proposal which shall be tabled for approval by the steering committee, and therefore they'll give the directorate on nod to implement that project on the behalf of the community, and therefore that is how the community taps into the fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in Vihiga County, we have 25 wards.
Yes.
Could you give us a bit of an overview on the different climate change projects that are being implemented across the county? And if possible, in which wards? Are they all in the 25 wards, or are there some wards that have not yet benefited from climate change projects?
Yes, up to 2025, there were some wards that had not benefited. We had done in all wards except 3. That is Lugaga wa Muluma, Shamahoho, and Banja. But as we speak, in this financial year, we are already implementing a project in those 3 wards. For example, in Shamahoho, we have got a project at Mungavo called Izava Mungavo Water Project, about 22 million shillings put there for a water project. Lugaga wa Muluma, we have a project at a place called Mbuoro Water Project, around 16 million shillings of a project. And then in Banja, we have got the Musengeli Water Project, which is around 16 million shillings. These are water supply and conservation projects. In the past, we started with the pilot wards where we did 5 projects. Among them was the Mwibona Water Project, Ipali Water Project, Kimogoishi Komoli Water Project, and the Buhani Irrigation Scheme Phase 1. So those are the projects that we started with. Then we went into another scale-up phase where we did around 7 projects that included the expansion of the Kimogoishi Komoli Water Project in Gisambai Ward. We did the Givole Water Project, this project in Chavakali Ward, Evojo Water Project, the Mudungu water Project, the Mugogo Water Project. Those are some of the projects that we have done in the second phase. But then, after we implemented and building on those capacities, we accessed the FLOCA financing, and we have now done even bigger projects, like the Buhaya Water Project in Central Bunyore, the Kaila Water Project in Luanda South, the Kamanji Water Project in Luanda Township, expansion and scaling up of the Buhani irrigation scheme in Mungoma. We have done the growing of 60 acres, 70 acres, and 55 acres in Maragoli Hills Forest. We have done the Mutave Jepsesi Bridge. We have done the Kaptik Mwala Water Project in Shiru. Mutave is in Tambua. And then we have done the Nadradi Water Project here in, which is this, the name of this word, Busali, the Kegondi Water Project in West Sabati, among others. So those are some of the projects that we have done. Even here in Izavaliadua, we have done the Vigina Water Project. That is also a water project there. So those are some of the projects that we have done. We have done very excellent beekeeping. The West Bunyore capacity of farmers and actually assisting them to establish beekeeping projects.
Nowadays, we often call it apiculture.
Yeah.
We also have reforestation of Sesi Bridge.
Yeah.
Now, apart from, because you've mentioned there's water, there's beekeeping, which assists in the ecosystem, and also now have projects. Now, what do you foresee to be the future of climate change? We should be having adequate water
Yeah.
in Vihiga County, or at least sustainable sources of ensuring that residents have what we often mention last mile connectivity for water projects. Climate change action in Vihiga, because the weather patterns keep changing, as you've mentioned. Come up, we have different global issues which affect us as well, including global. What do you, in your position, foresee as climate change action?
And we have done well, even excellently, in matters of investment in water sector. Areas, mostly looking at livelihood areas. So we'll be looking at climate smart agriculture initiatives, where we will scale up the apiculture projects. We will scale up new agriculture initiatives such as seed bankings and improved fodder. Those are another area that we look into. We look into enhancing climate information services, including and up to early warning systems. And then we'll also looking into strengthening non-extractive livelihoods in agriculture sector, such as ecotourism, especially where we have done restoration around Maragoli Hills. Those are some of the areas that we want to venture into.
Okay.
Also, because of the nature of landscape, erosion control and soil fertility.
And for the different projects, how do residents get to participate in it? Am I allowed, for instance, for Maragoli Hills, is a resident allowed to go and plant trees the reforestation efforts, or including these other projects that are being conducted, that are we allowed to participate place to educate people on how they can, even within their homesteads, within their homes, ensure that they have climate smart agriculture, change forward thinking kind of initiatives in place?
Yes, there are multiple ways in which, yeah. For example, Maragoli Hills reforestation, we have taken a system whereby we do a block, we reforestate, and then we move to the next. So a resident is to take up an area, even if it's a half an acre, they restore it, and then they'll have adopted that area. And already we have got residents who are supporting that, like Mr. Chamwada, the media personality, came and adopted around 15 acres. The Honorable, the Governor of Vihiga, Dr. Otichero, even in his private capacity, has done a lot for Maragoli Hills. And then Kenya Airways have done some work in Maragoli Hills adoption. The Ministry of Energy have also adopted an area. His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, also has done some work in mechanisms for a person to adopt reforestation in Maragoli Hills Forest. In addition, on their private farms, private citizens are also encouraged to do tree growing and also to conserve water areas, especially by removal of eucalyptus tree species, which is another area that the county and that is one area also as a private citizen they can take place in conservation. Another aspect is private harvesting of rainwater. If you harvest your own rainwater,
Do you have, you'd mentioned there are consultation forums. Within these forums, is there, or how, if I am mimi kwa shamba yangu, how do I get access to at a personal level?
yes, we disseminate this information through radio programs. Radio Matumaini and such forums also gives us an opportunity to be able to disseminate this information to our residents on climate change, its causes, and how to join climate action, as I've elaborated there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And we please practice some of the things that director has mentioned. It is important for us to environment, and it is also for the future, for our children and grandchildren, because we are seeing a lot of changes being affected by the decisions we make now.
Exactly.
And as we conclude, Director, we have a climate change research and innovation center that was established at the Kaimosi Friends University. It was launched in November of 2024. What has been the contribution in Vihiga County and national conversation since its launch in November 2024?
Well, through this, are now setting up its strategic plan so that it rolls out the first 5-year targets that the center says to achieve. But the in informing the climate action in the county on facts rather than just rather than alternative ways of decision making as regards the most appropriate climate action to be implemented. And as I have also said, the center, through the center, we shall for implementation of various climate action in the county. Yeah.
And will this particular center contribute any research towards climate change initiatives locally and globally as well?
Yes, already we are undertaking a research through the center on Maragoli Hills to determine what factors have enabled the success, because we have witnessed a lot of success since the county took over the reforestation, especially in the period beginning from 2019 to date. So the center is undertaking a research to show what factors made the tremendous success as opposed to other efforts that were done earlier. And that will inform other reforestation and conservation projects. The findings of it will be very important in designing environmental conservation projects. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing the plan coming to actualize some of the issues that you've raised for the center at Kemosi University, and also contribute, now to also global conversations on climate change, especially critical at this moment.
Yeah.
So we thank you again for joining us today. And as we conclude, we request that, as other guests have, do you have any final messages for residents of Vihiga County, especially related to climate change? And now, as you've explained to us, what is something you'd like to tell?
I would like to state that the impacts of climate change, adverse effects on the ability of people to be able to meet their livelihoods. Sustainable behavior such as tree growing, energy conservation, switching to energy saving vehicles and clean energy, as well as household food conservation. And also timely harvesting in order households are food secure in the face of climate change. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for joining us today, where we were speaking to the Director of Climate Change, Director Winstone Atamba, who's talked to us a bit about climate change and answered questions, including the very key question on which projects are available in the different wards, which climate change projects have been done in the different wards, and what are some of the ones that are continuing across the county. And as he mentioned, we continue encouraging all residents, please participate in the different initiatives in place to ensure that we have a climate forward county. And should you have any questions, continue asking them. We will answer them every week on Feedback Friday and in our other programming for Vihiga Wiki Hii, brought to you by the Department of Communication. I've been your host, Shamim Kerai Hussein, and great appreciation to the Department of Communication colleagues behind the scenes. You may not see them, but they ensure that this program comes to you through our different platforms. Until next week, we hope to see you then. Please ask your questions, and we hope today's maswali za climate change, most of them have been answered, and should there be any, please share them, and we will be able to ensure that they are responded to you. Until next time, bye.